Put your phone down for a second. Actually put it down. Now what? That quiet that just rushed in, that slight restlessness, that pull back toward the screen, that's not boredom. That's not a bad habit. That is your nervous system doing exactly what it was built to do. And what it's doing right now is treating the silence like a threat. Here's how we know. In 2014, psychologist Timothy Wilson and his team at the University of Virginia ran one of the strangest experiments in modern psychology. They took a group of ordinary people and put them in a plain, empty room. No phone, no book, no music, just a chair. And they asked them to sit there alone with their thoughts for 15 minutes. That's it. Sit, think, 15 minutes. Most people hated it. Not mildly disliked it. Hated it. Participants rated the experience as deeply unpleasant almost immediately. They couldn't focus. Their thoughts scattered. They felt restless, anxious, vaguely trapped. 15 minutes alone with nothing felt, to the average adult human being, genuinely uncomfortable. But that wasn't even the strange part. Before the session, the researchers had placed a small device in the room, a button, and pressing the button delivered a mild electric shock to the person sitting alone. Everyone had been given a sample shock before the experiment started, so they knew exactly what it felt like. They had all said clearly that they would pay money to avoid feeling it again, and then they sat alone in the room. 2/3 of the men in the study pressed the button, voluntarily, repeatedly. The average person shocked themselves 5 times in 15 minutes. One man pressed it 190 times. Not because the shock was pleasant, because any sensation at all, was preferable to the silence. Think about that for a second. Given a choice between their own thoughts and mild pain, most people chose pain. Now here's where it gets genuinely strange, because this isn't a modern problem. It isn't the fault of smartphones or social media or the pace of contemporary life. This response is ancient. It goes back hundreds of thousands of years. And to understand why, you have to go back to a world where sitting alone with nothing was never just uncomfortable. It was potentially fatal. Picture this. 200,000 years ago, somewhere in East Africa, the savanna is enormous and mostly flat, and it stretches in every direction as far as you can see. You are not a particularly fast animal. You don't have claws or venom or natural armor. What you have is a group, and when you are with your group, you are relatively safe. But alone? Alone is when the predators find you. Solitary stillness, for almost the entire history of the human species, was the precondition for ambush. A lion doesn't charge a group of 10 armed humans sitting around a fire. It waits until one person wanders off alone, until someone goes quiet, until someone stops moving. The predator's window is precisely the moment when a human is isolated, still, and unaware. Your brain learned this. At a cellular level, over thousands of generations, it learned that silence plus solitude equals danger, and the brain's response to danger is arousal, a flood of low-grade alertness designed to keep you moving, scanning, and connected to the world around you. Now, here's what nobody talks about. That system never got an update. Dr. Wilson's research, published in the journal Science, identified something he called the problem of the wandering mind. The human brain, left without external input, doesn't simply rest. It generates threat, not consciously, not on purpose, but the idle mind interprets its own quiet as exposure, as vulnerability, as the silence before something emerges from the tall grass. And Wilson wasn't the only one to find it. In 2003, neuroscientist Marcus Reichley at Washington University discovered what happens in the brain when you do absolutely nothing. He called it the default mode network. It's a cluster of brain regions that activates specifically when you stop doing tasks. When the outside world goes quiet, these regions light up instead. They replay the past, rehearse future scenarios, scan for social threats, run through what you said to your coworker last Tuesday and whether they seemed weird about it afterward. The idle brain is not resting. It is auditing. Reichley's team found that the default mode network consumes almost as much energy as active focused thought. Your brain at rest is not powering down. It is running background processes that are, evolutionarily speaking, far more urgent than whatever task you just stopped doing. It is checking whether you are safe, whether you are liked, whether something is coming. That restlessness you feel when your phone is in another room is not weakness. It's a 200,000-year-old alarm system doing its job perfectly in a world that no longer exists. And this is where it connects to something you do every single day. Every time you pick up your phone the moment you wake up, you're quieting that alarm. Every time you put on a podcast while you do the dishes. Every time you scroll for 30 seconds in an elevator rather than staring at the doors. Every time you check your messages before you've even gotten out of bed. You're not being lazy. You're not failing at mindfulness. You're feeding a nervous system that was designed at a hardware level to interpret unstructured silence as a sign that something is very wrong. The phone is not the problem. The phone is the solution your ancient brain found to a problem it's been trying to solve since before language existed. And here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. You're not reaching for your phone because you're weak or distracted or addicted. You're reaching for it because somewhere in the oldest part of your nervous system, an alarm is going off. And the phone is the fastest thing in your environment that makes the alarm stop. It floods you with signal, voices, faces, movement, text, proof of other humans, proof that you are not alone, exposed and still. But here's the thing about solutions that were built for a different world. They stop working. They start causing damage because the alarm that kept your ancestors alive in the savannah is the same alarm that makes it impossible to sit with an uncomfortable thought long enough to actually resolve it. It's the same alarm that makes genuine rest feel like procrastination. That makes meditation feel like suffering. That makes 15 minutes alone feel like something is wrong with you. It's why you can lie in bed for an hour and feel more exhausted than when you lay down. The alarm ran all night, checking, scanning, finding nothing, and checking again. Nothing is wrong with you. Something is working exactly as it was designed to work. The problem is that the design is 200,000 years old, and the world changed about 200 years ago. Wilson and his colleagues found that even a few weeks of gentle practice, deliberately sitting with quiet for short periods without immediately reaching for stimulation, reduced the internal threat response. The brain, even an ancient brain, is plastic. It can learn that silence is not the grass before the ambush. That stillness is not the moment before the strike, but it has to be taught because it wasn't born knowing. You were born into a world of constant input, constant signal, constant noise, and somewhere in the back of your skull, an older part of you breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, proof that you're not alone. Proof that the world is still moving. Proof that nothing is crouching in the dark. Every notification, every scroll, every podcast filling the silence of a walk, every television on in an empty room, they are all the same signal. Still here, still safe, still not alone in the tall grass. The researchers gave people a button that hurt them. People pressed it repeatedly just to feel something happen. And the next time you reach for your phone, the second a moment goes quiet, you will know exactly what that is. Not weakness, not addiction. An animal remembering what silence once meant. If you thought of someone specific while watching this, send it to them. No explanation needed. They'll know.